believed to occur roughly 8,000 years before Aegon's conquest. The Long Night brought forth not only a generation of darkness, cold, and famine, but also a terrible war against the Others, a mysterious race of pale-skinned warriors able to revive the slain and form armies of undead whites. Though the first men and children of the forest rose to counter the invasion, their weapons, armor, and magic were no match for the enemy, until they eventually learned dragon glass could kill the Others, allowing them to save Westeros and claim victory in the Battle for the Dawn. In order to prevent any such invasion in the future, stories say Bran the Builder constructed a massive wall across the land, while the children of the forest cast powerful spells and enchantments upon the ice, ensuring the Others could not pass through. Taking vows to guard the realms of men, the Night's Watch were charged with defending, maintaining, and expanding the wall. Yet in truth, they only guarded the southern realms of men, as some lived beyond it when the division was created, and thus became a people apart from the rest of Westeros, known as wildlings or freefolk. Though living in the frozen north beyond the wall meant a life of hardship and violence, struggling to survive in a land without agriculture, it also meant they were free from the politics of the south, allowing them to develop into various tribes and clans, each with their own laws, customs, and leadership structure. Growing radical in their devotion to this freedom, it became a near impossible task for anyone to unify their people, and indeed no long-term kingdom was ever established. Yet there were, on occasion, men of extraordinary ability who found ways to unite the free folk into some semblance of an army or realm, earning the rare title of King Beyond the Wall. Though the means of attaining this authority might vary, possibly bribing, manipulating, or breaking free folk tribes into submission, the nature of their rule was unlike that of the South, where a monarch was part of a hereditary dynasty, ruling largely in absolute terms, as their word was the final say in all matters, above even established law or religious traditions. Instead, the King Beyond the Wall ruled a non-hereditary, composite monarchy in which each of the clans and tribes under his command continued to follow their own laws, customs, and leaders, remaining faithful to the king only so long as he remained strong and worthy of that loyalty. And even if such a king proved himself mighty, his accolades belonged to him alone, and thus their position could not be inherited by any children. As a result of this strict determination to remain independent, the death of a king often meant the end of their unification and a return to scattered factions fighting tribal warfare. Among the few great leaders able to claim the title King Beyond the Wall, there was Joramun, first known king of the Freefolk, who united their people during the Age of the Night's King, when legends say the 13th Lord Commander of the Night's Watch took a pale-skinned queen and rose in rebellion. Taking the Night Fort as his castle and the Night's Watch as his army, he ruled through fear and cruelty for 13 years until the King of Winter, Brandon the Breaker Stark, attacked from the south, while Joramun and his free folk came from the north, at last vanquishing the rebel and ending his reign of terror. Among the many other legends surrounding Joramun, he was said to possess a magic horn able to wake giants, and according to the free folk, might bring down the wall. Moving on to the brother kings, Gendel and Gorn, songs speak of a time when they were called upon to settle a dispute between children of the forest and giants, as each claimed ownership to a cavern. Yet when the brothers discovered the cavern was actually part of a larger tunnel system leading south of the wall, they tricked both parties into abandoning their claim so the free folk might take it for themselves. Ever seeking for their people to escape the harsh lands of the far north, the kings gathered the free folk and began a great journey through Gorn's Way, named for the brother who devoted himself to studying the cave system. Although they successfully bypassed the wall and Night's Watch, once they reached the northern kingdom, the Stark King emerged from Winterfell to cut them down. Hearing about a great battle in the south, the Night's Watch marched to help crush the free folk invasion. Most stories agree Gorn slayed the King of Winter, only to be struck down by the King's son and heir, but the fate of Gendel was disputed, as the Northmen say he died in battle, while the free folk claimed he survived and led their people into retreat through Gorn's Way. Unfortunately, he did not know the tunnel system like his brother, and so they were lost underground, where their descendants still live, killing and eating anyone who wandered near. Many years later, the Horned Lord reigned as king, said to have used sorcery to pass the wall and attack the north. Then there was Bale the Bard, who according to free folk legend was once called a coward by Lord Brandon Stark of Winterfell, and so to prove his courage, climbed the wall and infiltrated their home while pretending to be the bard Sigaric of Skagos. Delighting the court, the king offered him a reward, and so he asked for a rare blue rose from the garden. The next morning, the lord's daughter was gone, with only a blue rose found in her bed. Despite a widespread search, she was never found, but several months later reappeared in her bed with a baby in her arms. As the lord had no other heirs, this child later inherited Winterfell and eventually came face to face with his father in the Battle of the Frozen Fords during King Bale's invasion of the North. Unable to raise his weapon against his own son, Bale allowed himself to be slain by Lord Stark, who cut off his head and brought it back home, where his mother saw it and killed herself in grief. Bale's son was later slain by the Boltons and his skin used as a cloak. Though this tale was well known among the free folk, the North had no knowledge of any such events, and certain details within the story suggest it was false or changed over time. During the Targaryen era, there was King Raymun Redbeard, who rose to power over 2 centuries after Aegon's conquest. Seeing that the Night's Watch was a shell of its former self, he led an invasion of the North in 226 AC, sending his people to climb up the wall and find a quiet place to set up ropes and ladders for the rest of them. Making their way into the north, they fought in the Battle of the Long Lake, where Lord Willem Stark of Winterfell and Lord Harmond Umber of Last Hearth defeated their forces. Though Raymun slew Willem, he then died at the hands of the Lord's brother Ardo Stark. Under the leadership of a Lord Commander, afterward nicknamed Sleepy Jack, the Night's Watch not only allowed the free folk to pass over the wall, but arrived late to the battle when the fighting was over. Furious over their failure, Ardos assigned the Night's Watch to bury the bodies. A few decades later, the free folk warrior Garrick Kingsblood claimed to be a descendant of Raymun Redbeard, though others believed he descended from the king's brother, the Red Raven, who fled from the Battle of the Long Lake. Queen Selyse, wife of Stannis Baratheon, whose people were taking refuge in the far north, was impressed by the lineage of House Redbeard, and so arranged for his daughters to marry knights of her house. Almost 300 years after the Targaryen conquest of Westeros, yet another king beyond the wall came to power and once again planned an invasion of the north. Yet whereas the kings of the past often fought to improve their living conditions, Mance Rayder brought his people south in order to survive the coming invasion of the others, who at long last were returned and once again raising an army of undead. Though most south of the wall believed the stories of the others were merely legend, the free folk were already under assault from these dangerous creatures, and so Mance Rayder, former brother of the Night's Watch who deserted and fled north, used his cunning and martial prowess to bring peace and unite the free folk under his rule. Raising tens of thousands of warriors, and even bringing some giants to his cause, he attacked the underdefended wall and might have achieved victory if not for the intervention of King Stannis Baratheon and his southern army, who arrived and tore through the free folk, capturing their leader. While most believed Mance was then burned alive, the Red Priestess Melisandre secretly sent him on a mission to rescue Arya Stark, sister of Lord Commander Jon Snow, who was being held by House Bolton in Winterfell, though it was actually the girl Jane Poole, posing as Arya. Unfortunately, Jon Snow then received a letter, supposedly from Ramsay Bolton, claiming Mance failed his mission and was captured.
A special thanks to all those who contribute to CivilizationEx.
Like Sir Xavier, Defender of the Flame, Average Soul the Healer, Kyle Blitzsword, and Daedry Dragon's Wit.
If you'd like to help the channel, go to patreon.com/CivilizationEx, where you can sign up and gain early access to videos, vote on future content, and access the Patreon-only series, Heroes of Lore and Legend.